There's some more info revolving around the Maui fire, and today we will be covering that. Also, I'm going to reveal all of the congressmen in Massachusetts that I emailed a couple weeks ago, and they still did not respond. The Maui situation has now been going on for almost a month, and nobody in the federal government has been investigated. They need to, and it is a very serious situation when 113 people die. Also in the news, we have Trump's mugshot being taken, and it goes viral on Twitter, and it backfires heavily on the Democrats. All of that and more on today's episode.
Facts over tracks, this and that, spitting slow, spitting fast, I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past.
A few weeks ago, I uncovered the truth of what really happened in Hawaii, but there's more to the story that just got exposed. So, to recap, if you didn't watch the first episode on Hawaii, the state installed 400 sirens to alert people of any natural disasters throughout the state, but none of them went off during this fire, which resulted in lives being lost for sure. Also, to make matters worse, Herman Hendeya, the head of the Maui Emergency Management Agency, resigned to try to escape responsibility, but he will never escape public scrutiny on my watch. When the reporters were asking him questions, the governor would just cut off the reporters and just say that they are not letting Herman finish. Here's the clip.
Do you regret not sounding the sirens?
I do not. And the reason why, and
so many people said they could have been saved if they had time to escape. Had a siren gone off, they would have known that there was a crisis emerging. And as we know, so many bodies were found in the ground.
Do you want him to give you the answer, or do you want to give? Well, then let him finish his answer.
Sorry, there's a lot of people.
Well, you're talking and you're not letting him talk. If you want to talk, come up here.
I'm ready for the answer.
Then wait.
the sirens, as I had mentioned earlier, is used primarily for tsunamis, and that's the reason why many of them are found, almost all of them are found on the coastline.
So, to this point, 115 people have been killed, and I know why. According to the reports from the people that were at the scene the day of the fire, there were only two ways of leaving the city. One of them had road work on it, so the road was closed, and another had a line of cars that did not move at all. When someone walked to the beginning of the line, they noticed that there was a policeman there just telling cars to stop. So let me get this straight. People were trying to escape a deadly fire. The people in charge told them to do something that ended up killing them. How many times does this situation happen that people in charge do not have our best interest at heart? We shouldn't just trust the public officials anymore. It has been done too many times now that their direction was wrong. According to officials in Maui, the road was open only to emergency vehicles and materials for people stranded in their homes. How about the people just waiting on the road? They had to flee the fire that was coming towards them, so they brought as much as they could carry and hopped into the water surrounding them, which led them to be boiled alive, like a lobster. Disgraceful. The governor should be held accountable, and so should everybody in charge. We cannot let the public forget this when it comes to election time. The police in Maui also tell the reporters that if they go to the media blackout zone, then they can face arrest charges. This is just an evil thing that happened, and they need to be held responsible for what happened on that day. But before we dig into the media's takes, I do want to go over exactly who I emailed and sent my letter to, and I will be reading the letter that I actually wrote to and sent to the congressman, every single congressman in Massachusetts. So this is the letter here. Hello, I want to start off by introducing myself. My name is Demetrius Urijo, and I'm 19 years old. I live here in the state, and I am a concerned voting citizen. I'm concerned because, as you may have heard, there was a fire in Hawaii that affected the whole city of Maui. As of today, or as of the day that I wrote this, 111 people were found dead and thousands missing, and all 165,386 are without a home. It is a devastating time for everyone involved in the situation. The government must be fully transparent when it comes to protocols for natural emergencies, especially when over 100 people are dead because of it. Hawaii officials knew that the island was a target for natural disasters. That's why they called 500 alarms throughout the state. That's why they installed 500 alarms throughout the state and installed 80 in the city of Maui alone. As you may be familiar, according to Maui's own website, The all-hazard siren alarm can be used for a variety of both natural and human-caused events, including tsunamis, hurricanes, dam breaches, flooding, war, wildfires, volcanic eruptions, terrorist threats, hazardous material incidents, and more. Knowing this, there is no excuse for the alarm system not to sound and alert the people of the city and save lives. The reporters at the scene asked the head of the Maui Emergency Management Agency, and he kept changing his answer every time he was asked. Last week's excuse for this is that all of the alarms were broken, but that's not true. On August 1st, the alarms were tested, and they were deemed good to go because if they were broken, they would be fixed, I presume. This was 1 week before the fire, but on Tuesday, August 15th, he changed the story and said that some were broken. That's why none of them went off. Then, most recently, a reporter asked him if he regrets not sounding the alarms, and he said that the alarms were only used for tsunamis, in which is wrong. According to Maui's own website, as we just went over, because he just could not answer a simple question, he decided to resign and try to escape responsibility. Not on our watch. Looking at the info we have now, I am urging you and your administration to open up a federal investigation into the matter to make sure a situation like this never happens again. This is now the third time a wildfire like this has happened in the state, and it is disappointing every time. Also, this is not the first major fire in Hawaii. One Maui County report on wildfire prevention conducted in 2021 stated that while the number of acres consumed by wildfires had spiked, funds to prevent and mitigate them were inadequate. The report also stated that the county's fire department's strategic plan included, quote, nothing about what can and should be done to prevent fires, in what is called a, quote, significant oversight. Yeah, significant is a big understatement. This is because in August of 2018, brush fires broke out as Hurricane Lane neared Maui. The fires engulfed more than 2,000 acres and forced dozens to flee their homes. The storm should have been considered a real-world wake-up call for Hawaii, according to a 2019 plan from the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency. Not only that, but a year prior to that, large fires went through Maui in 2019, burning around 25,000 acres of former sugarcane land in dry brush as Hawaii went through record high temperatures. If this doesn't make you annoyed, I don't know what will. The government of Hawaii keeps ignoring the simple fact that they must do something and change the way that they handle these fires in the future. One time is an accident, a second time is a devastation, and now it's the third time, and there needs to be action taken on the people in charge, and they must be held responsible and accountable. If your administration can't open up a federal investigation, I give consent to forward this message to where it needs to get the job done. Nonetheless, if only one person was killed because of this, it is still a tragedy. But 111 people were killed at the time of writing this. I will be sending this to as many senators and congressmen as I can get in contact with because this is a pressing matter. My household is full of voters along with my company, and we will be keeping an eye on this to see how it gets handled, and we will recall this letter and the actions taken from your administration to decide in this upcoming election in 2024. So let's actually go over the exact people that I actually sent this to. I sent this to Congressman Walter Timely. I sent this to Congressman Brush Tarr of Massachusetts. I sent this to Congressman Karen Spolika. I sent this to Senator Mike Rush. I sent this to Congressman Michael Rodriguez, Congressman Becca Resrich, Congressman Pavel Payano, Congressman Mark Pacheco, Congressman Jacob Oliveira, Congressman Mike O'Connor, Congressman Susan Moran, Congressman Michael Moore, Congressman Paul Mark, Congressman Joan Lovely, Congressman Jason Lewis, Congressman Jocelyn Kennedy, Congressman Edward Kennedy, Congressman John Keeman, Congressman Patricia Colin, Congressman Adam Gomez, Congressman Cindy Fredman, Congressman Paul Freeney, Congressman Ryan Fatman, Congressman James Eldridge, Congressman Lydia Edwards, Congressman Sal Ditto Minerico, Congressman Julian C.Y.R., Congressman John Croman, Congressman Brandon Crichton, Congressman Cynthia Cream, Congressman Joe Comerford, Congressman Nick Collins, Congressman William Brownsberger, and Congressman Mike Barrett. So all of these people are all congressmen of Massachusetts, and I sent this letter to all of them. So as of right now, I got no responses, but I will be keeping an eye on my inbox, and I will be letting you know if I do get any other responses from them. because this is a really pressing matter and a federal investigation must be opened up immediately. With that being said, we're going to be digging into the headlines of the week. Okay, so starting off, we actually have a Daily Wire article. We have Trump's mugshot backfires massively on the left. Last night, for the first time in American history, we saw a mugshot of a former president. Donald Trump was officially arrested at Fulton County Jail in Georgia. Unlike with the other 900 inmates, this time they decided to take and publish his mugshot. There was, of course, no legitimate reason to take a mugshot of a former president. The whole purpose of a mugshot is to provide law enforcement with photographic documentation of the suspect. But Donald Trump is the most recognizable and famous person in the world, possibly in the history of the world. When he shows up for trial, they're going to have to refer back to his mugshot and make sure it's really him. They're not going to be anyone saying, wait, is that Donald Trump? It's hard to tell. Pull up his mugshot. So why did they take this step? What was the point? The point was, of course, was pure humiliation and vengeance. It was also to give the DA, Fani Willis, a political trophy to put on her wall. It's something that she wants to use when she's inevitably runs for the Senate or governor in a few years. Of course, it all backfired, as it was always designated to. The mugshot instantly became an iconic image and had exactly the effort that the half-conscious political observer knew it would have. Rallying the base around Trump is now fundraising off the image, and smartly so, and will likely raise many millions just from the mugshot alone. In fact, we can say that if Donald Trump does manage to get elected to the presidency again, Fani Willis will be largely responsible for it. She is the most effective campaigner manager Trump has ever had, even if unintentionally. But even if all of this obviously works to Trump's advantage, that doesn't make it any less outrageous, nor should it be distracted from the lessons that this moment is trying to teach us. The most obvious one is that the left is beyond caring about even the pretense of legitimacy, something they used to pretend to care about deeply. In fact, through the whole ordeal, they are not even acting like they've stopped some grave threat to democracy, because they know they've done the exact opposite of that. They are wielding raw political power for the sole lawless purpose of incarcerating someone who stands a very real chance of winning the presidential election in a little over a year. In fact, many on the left don't want Trump incarcerated. They want him killed. An MSNBC anchor just openly fantasized about Donald Trump getting shanked or murdered in prison. Watch.
Just a few minutes ago, Donald Trump, the disgraced ex-president, the frontrunner for the Republican nominee for president, 4 times indicted, departed his golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey. He's en route to Fulton County, Georgia, via Newark Airport, we believe. He will surrender himself for processing at an overcrowded jail with a reputation for violence and neglect. A jail that is accustomed to holding defendants facing charges up to and including violent crimes, where stabbings are frequent. And actually, 3 people have lost their lives over the last month. That jail is where the disgraced ex-president of these United States is heading right now.
I mean, I think that they're really, putting this out of context here. I think that they're just saying this is where it happened in the past. That's where he's going to go. And they're more using this as like, oh, look, this is the disgrace and blah, blah, blah. They're not using it as like, oh, I hope that he dies. Like, there's really clips of these people saying, I hope he dies. Oh, I hope he dies. I don't think these were one of these clips. So, yeah, she does have a little laugh, but I think we can find clips of them being more evil than this. We've played a lot of demented clips on the show over the last years. That one is up there. Not long ago, Nicole Wallace was running comms for the White House during the Iraq War. Back then, she had to pretend to care about the deaths of innocent people at the hands of the establishment in Washington. These people would do everything they can to silence Donald Trump, MSNBC, and CNN after observantly covering Trump's trip to Georgia all day. Made a point of cutting away from his remarks yesterday. And I completely see why CNN's doing this, because if they let Trump talk, then it's going to make them look bad. But they don't want to look bad. If If the statement, quote, will get sued if we air the remarks of the former president after his indictment is in fact remotely accurate, then any self-respecting journalist would air the remarks anyway. They'd fight any consequences for it in the court. If the First Amendment protects anything, it's airing the words of the former president at the time like this. But MSNBC's statement isn't true, of course. It's a dumb jab at Fox News over the Dominion lawsuit, and it protects their viewers from hearing about the substance in these indictments, or lack thereof. That's why they do that. Here's what they're not telling the viewers at MSNBC. The Fulton County DA, Fani Willis, has indicted Donald Trump along with 18 co-defendants for the following crimes: offering legal advice to the president, tweeting things that Fani Willis doesn't like, and in one particularly outrageous case, getting someone's phone number. The indictment states, quote, on or about the 21st day of November 2020, Mark Randall Meadows sent a text message to the United States Representative Scott Perry from Pennsylvania and stated, quote, can you send me the number for the speaker and the leader of the PA legislature? President of the United States wants to chat with him. This was an overact in further essence of the conspiracy. Think about what a remarkable paragraph that is. Mark Meadows, in his capacity as chief of staff to Donald Trump, was seeking to obtain the phone number of some politician in Pennsylvania. And because the reason for that request was investigating potential voter fraud, Fani Willis says that Mark Meadows needs to go to prison, along with more than a dozen other Trump advisors. One of those advisors is John Eastman. What's his offense? He advanced the legal theory that alternative slates of electors could be seated if election fraud was found. That's apparently criminal now. That wasn't criminal in 1960 when JFK's electors from Hawaii met secretly and submitted their own confidence certificates to Washington, saying he had won the state. As Politico reported, quote, the Hawaii Democrats used virtually the same language the Trump electors in 5 states used in their effort to append the 2020 race. Ultimately, Kennedy's electors turned out to be the legitimate ones after a recount determined Kennedy had won the state. Anyone looking at the episode in 1960 would say it's a good thing that the alternative electors can be sent to Washington. In the case of a recount, that changes the result of the election, but now that's criminal. If it's a RICO violation, supposedly John Eastman and several other lawyers are now facing several years in prison because they did exactly what JFK's electors did, and were vindicated for doing so. In 1960, David Seffer, who was one of Trump's alternative electors from Georgia, had also been indicted. Ray Smith is facing jail time too. His offense, per Axios Smith, quote, gathered witnesses to testify in hearings before Georgia lawmakers in December of 2020 about alleged problems with the state's election. That's not allowed anymore. Neither is tweeting about these hearings, apparently. The indictment states, quote, on or before the 3rd day of December 2020, Donald John Trump caused to be tweeted from Twitter account at Real Donald Trump, Georgia hearings now on OANN. Amazing. This was an overt act in the furtherance of the conspiracy for the crime of tweeting about a hearing about election fraud and related offenses. Fani Willis wants to send Trump and 18 of his associates to prison, and she wants to do it very quickly. Willis just filed a request with the court for his trial to take place in just a few months, beginning on December 23rd. So for this unprecedented criminal trial of 19 defendants based on a completely novel and insane legal theory, she wants the defense to have a total of 2 months to prepare. Is that constitutional? Honestly, no one in the DA's office seems to care. It's at the point that it's a fair look into the Fulton County's DA, Fani Willis. It's long been known that she's a Democrat and an opponent of Donald Trump. In itself, it's not necessary dequalifying anyone, even DAs, has a right to his or her own political opinions. But Fani Willis has gone far beyond that. Just a year ago, she hosted a fundraiser for a Democratic candidate running against one of the biggest targets of her election investigation, a state senator named Burt Jones. Jones was one of Trump's alternative electors. Here's how the judge responded when he found out about this. This is a DA who has to be told by a judge not to host fundraisers for political oppositions of politicians. She plans to prosecute. That's that dumb and corrupt. She's that dumb and corrupt. corrupt. By the way, Jones wasn't indicted along with the other 19 defendants because Fannie Wallace knew that a judge would throw it out. She blew that perception. But if you look at Fannie Wallace's social media feeds, as Bernie Johnson did the other day, you'll come to the conclusion that actually she blown all 19 of these prosecutions. Willis's feed is littered with posts casting doubt about the legitimacy of the 2020 election before the vote total suddenly shifted against Trump. For example, Georgia could determine who is the next president if she wrote on November 4th, 2020. A team of lawyers needs to watch them count every single vote. They can start in Fulton, where we are having water leaks. What ballots are they throwing out? Georgia, let's give an honest accounting, no stunts. In 2018, Willis said that it was suspicious that local election commissioners haven't approved a recount in some votes in Fulton County. Quote, "You all better start paying attention to what's really going on," she wrote. She also argued that the Secretary of State controls elections, adding, quote, I wonder if we yet realize that it is an important role. She also posted a lot of BLM propaganda, worships Kamala Harris, and owns a mug saying that she's a, quote, proud Democrat. So we can conclude that the Fannie Wallace is something of a political motivated election denier. As always, the left is guilty of doing exactly what they accuse their opponents of doing. The obvious point is that Donald Trump's social media posts, if they are criminal, then so are Fannie Wallace's. Her prosecution of Donald Trump based on her posts is an overt act in furtherance of her conspiracy to keep Donald Trump out of the White House. Will Republicans indict Fannie Wallace? If Republicans retake the federal government, will they jail her for election interference? Ask any conservative right now, and they'll tell you it will never happen. And they're probably right. We're seeing a vast difference in tactics right now between the two major political parties. Conservatives would never dream of dragging, say, George Soros into court on some pretext for the sole purpose of harassing him. Liberals, on the other hand, have no problem suing Elon Musk for not hiring enough refugees. They relish every opportunity to use state power to punish their opponents. With each passing month, they're getting more comfortable doing it. First, they target grandmothers walking around the Capitol. Then, they jail Douglas Mackey for some memes. Then they go after Donald Trump for his tweets and his, quote, classified documents. And now, in Georgia, they're targeting not only Donald Trump, but more than a dozen of his advisors and associates. They will continue until they're in jail, or all of their opponents are. After this latest indictment, it's time to stop pretending otherwise, and I completely agree with this. If we're not going to prosecute the Democrats for doing the same exact stuff under the RICO violations that Donald Trump is being charged as, then why are we going to prosecute the Republicans first? No, I want to see if you're actually fooling around or you actually want to do change in the world. If you actually want to do change, then we're going to put all of the stuff that these people on the Republican side did off aside, and we're going to prosecute all the Democrats that did it first. If we can't prosecute the Democrats that did it first, then I don't trust that you're going to do the opposite. You're going to do it my way, or we're going to do it no way. I'm not going to accept it because of the fact that we always have done it the Democrat way, and then we always get screwed over and bent over every single time because of the fact that they don't like Republicans at all, and they do not want us even here. So us actually pretending as if it's a equal playing field is just outrageous. It's not. But we do have another article from the Federalist. We have why twisting the 14th Amendment to get Trump won't hold up in court. The effort to hold Trump accountable for his actions should not depend on a warping of our constitution. The effort to hold Trump accountable for his actions should not depend on a warping of our constitutional system. 4 indictments of Donald Trump have so far done no more to stop him than 2 earlier impeachments did. He remains easily the front runner in the Republican primaries, and in some polls is running equal with President Biden. But now a theory defended by able legal scholars have emerged, arguing that Trump is constitutionally disqualified from serving as president. Even if Trump secures enough electoral votes to win the presidency next year, legal professors Michael Paulson and Will Barade argue the 14th Amendment to the Constitution would disqualify him from federal office. Former Judge Michael Litterig and Professor Lawrence Tribe have enthusiastically seconded the theory. While their theory about the continuing relevance of the Constitution's insurrection clause strikes us as correct, they err in believing that anyone, down to the lowest county election worker, has the right to strike Trump from the ballot. Ratified in 1868, the 14th Amendment is a load-bearing constitutional power erected during the Reconstitution period, Confederacy in the Civil War. Quote, no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress, or elector of president, or in vice president, or hold any public office, civil or military, under the United States, or under any state who, having previously taken an oath, as a member of Congress, or as an officer of the United States, or as a member of any state legislature, or as an executive or judicial officer of any state, to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have emerged in the insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. But if we read the beginning, elector of president is not the president. So elector of president and vice president is not what you're thinking. President is not a elector of the president. Elector of the president is somebody in the cabinet of the president. So it does not go over who can be the president and who cannot be the president. That's first of all. Second of all, you really think that he's going to get charged with insurrection. He's not. It's not going to happen. There's not enough evidence to prove that he actually caused an insurrection on January 6th. So let's see actually what happens with this, because if he doesn't get charged, then this 14th Amendment doesn't even go. Although Section 3 unquestionably applies to the Confederates, and its text contains nothing limiting to the Civil War, rather it is a continuing relevance to any future insurrection or rebellion. Although it does not explicitly refer to the presidents or presidential candidates exactly. Comparison with other constitutional texts referring to officers supports the interpretation that it applies to the presidency too, but it doesn't. Section 3 distinguishes between rebellion and insurrection, and we must have a competency guide to the meaning of the distinction. In the Prize Cases 1863, the Supreme Court declared that insurrection against a government may or may not culminate in an organized rebellion, but a civil war always begins an insurrection against the lawful authority of the government. Quote, insurrection therefore refers to the political violence at a lower level or less organized than an organized rebellion, though it may develop that into that. Trump may have been an insurrectionist but not a rebel. But was he even an insurrectionist? In their Atlantic piece, Littig and Tribe find the answer obvious. Well, we believe that any disinterested observer who witnessed that bloody assault on the temple of our democracy, and anyone who learns about the many failed schemes of the bloodlessly overturned the election before that, would have to come to the same conclusion. But that view is not universally shared. Finding disinterested observers in a country marked by passionate disagreements over Donald Trump is no easy task. Despite the scenes of attack on the Capitol and extensive investigators, the American people do not seem to argue that Trump took part in an insurrection or a rebellion. Almost half of the respondents in the 2022 CBS poll rejected the claim that the events on January 6 were an actual insurrection, with the divide tracking partisan lines, and 76% viewed it as a protest gone too far. Other considerations also call into question that the claim that Trump instigated an insurrection in the constitutional sense. If it were clear that Trump engaged in insurrection, the Justice Department should have acted on the January 6th committee's referral for prosecution on that charge. Special counsel Jack Smith should have been indicted for insurrection, CDS conspiracy, which remain federal crimes. If it were obvious that Donald Trump had committed insurrection, Congress should have convicted him in the 2 weeks between January 6th and Inauguration Day. Instead, the House impeached Trump for indictment to insurrection, but the Senate acquitted him. The Senate's acquittal is the only official binding by the federal or state institution on the question on whether Trump committed insurrection. The failure of the special counsel is to charge insurrection and the Senate to convict in the second impeachment highlights a serious flaw in the academic theory of disqualification. According to Littig and Tribe, it appears self-evident that Trump committed insurrection. They assume Trump violated the law without any definitive finding of any federal authority. According to their view, he must carry the burden of proof to show he is not guilty of an insurrection or rebellion. a process that achieves the very opposite of our Constitution's guarantee of due process, which so happens is not provided for by the Fifth Amendment, but reaffirmed in the same 14th Amendment that contains a disqualification clause. It would be like requiring Barack Obama to prove he was natively born, a constitutional prerequisite for being president, if state election officials disqualified him from being foreign born. If this academic view were correct, it would throw our electoral system into chaos. One of the chief virtues of the electoral college system is that it decentralizes the selection of the president. State legislatures decide the manner of chosen electors, which each state receiving votes equal to its representation in the House and the Senate. States run the electors, which means that hundreds, if not thousands, of city, county, and state officials would execute this a literal finding of insurrection. A country's state election official, for example, could choose to remove Trump's name from the printed ballots or refuse to count any votes in his favor. A state court could order Trump barred from the election. A state governor could refuse to certify any electoral votes in his favor. Decentralization of our electoral system could allow a single official, especially from a battleground state, to sway the outcome for a close race in the 2024 presidential election. Okay, but it coulda. So this is the biggest thing here. It can. And I completely agree. It can. And sausages can fly right out of the sky, but they did not do it yet. So both things can be true at the same exact time. Yes, we can say at the same exact time this can happen, and we need to keep our eyes peeled for it. And at the same exact time, it did not happen yet, so we cannot say that it is going to happen for certain, verbatim. So I can kind of see where they're coming from, but at the same exact time, I would like to caution everybody to actually keep an eye on this year's election because of the fact that stuff did happen in the past, and we need to be keeping our eyes peeled because this time, if the same exact situation is going to happen, then nobody's going to trust the electoral system anymore. And that's a sad day. With that being said, let's move into the media's takes.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Okay, moving into a dozen takes, we actually have a Daily Wire article because of the fact that we focused so much on because of the fact that we spent so long on the Trump indictment and the Trump arrest and the mugshot at the beginning of the show. We're actually just going to talk about this very briefly. So because of the fact that the president does not like Elon Musk because he does not like anybody that is even center-leaning to the right. He does not like those people. He wants even center-leaning people to the left. No, he wants full-on leftists or Democrats. Nothing, okay? No center left, no center right, just all the way leftist. That's the people that he likes. So for Elon Musk, which is a center-leaning left person, he does not like him at all. He's a billionaire, he's a successful person, and he does not like him. So that's why he ordered the DOJ to do an investigation into him. So this is the article. As soon as Elon Musk made himself the enemy of, quote, democracy by supporting free speech on social media, we know that makes no sense. He put a target on his back from the Biden administration. In fact, the president even telegraphed that his goons in the government would come after Musk after he bought Twitter. But it wasn't clear what exactly he meant. On Thursday, Americans got their answer. President Joe Biden's Department of Justice announced a lawsuit Thursday against Elon Musk's SpaceX for allegedly discriminating against asylees and refugees in hiring. The DOJ alleges that SpaceX violated the Immigration and Naturality Act by discouraging asylees and refugees from applying and refusing to hire them. The Department of Justice claims that SpaceX instead chose to hire United States citizens and legal residents. Okay, so the fact that you have to hire so many United States citizens is already a red flag. The Justice Department does not need to have rules and regulations against hiring people that are in our own country. You should be able to hire as many people within our own country as we possibly can to get the economy going. And then if you have extra space on top of first hiring the American people, then we can do refugees and asylum seekers. That's second, okay? The American people should come first. Yes, that's right. Musk is being investigated for putting Americans first. So, how did we know that some sort of federal action would come down the pipe against Musk? Well, last November, Biden was asked point blank if he thought Musk was a, quote, national security threat, and whether or not Twitter, now known as X, should be investigated. Biden refused to answer whether Musk threatened national security, but said that his purchase of the platform was, quote, worth being looked into. When asked how he would go about doing that, Biden chuckled, "There are a lot of ways," and was ominous then, and seems even more sinister now. From the outside, it looks like Biden's response was effectively assigned to the powers that be to go over Trump, or to go over Musk. This isn't the first time something like this happened. Consider that the president and other Democrats have made it a habit in recent years to make vague statements about the power of the United States government against their enemies, only for events to happen as they predict. For example, Senator Chuck Schumer, Democrat from New York, warned Trump in January 2017, quote, "You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways till Sunday at getting at you." So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being real dumb to this. And what happened? Well, Russiagate, the Ukrainian impeachment, and the Hunter Biden's laptop are just a few examples of the intelligence community, quote, getting back at Trump. Then Biden forecasted that if Russia invaded Ukraine, the Nord Stream pipeline too would no longer be there. How would that happen? He was asked. Biden responded, "Well, I promise you, we will be able to do that." He was right. A portion of the pipeline was blown to smithereens. When it first happened, the intelligence community blamed Russia. Now sources say that Ukrainian special forces did it, that the United States knew that it was going to happen months in advance. The Biden administration and Democrats at large find a way to get back at their political enemies, just asking the pro-life father of 7, Mark Horak, Catholic's parents, and former President Donald J. Trump, how the left is unafraid to wield government force to punish their opponents. Musk is an opponent of the left, so it makes sense that the DOJ is coming after him. GOP Ohio Senate candidate Barney Moreno summarized the situation nicely. Quote, "Instead of punishing Elon Musk for hiring American citizens over non-citizens, we should be celebrating him for putting our people first. This is all really just about the Dem thugs in the Biden DOJ just furious that Elon ended the censorship and brought freedom of speech to X." And I completely agree with this. If you go against them, then I don't like you. But Elon Musk actually responds here. So this is the next article from the Daily Wire. We have Elon Musk responds to the DOJ weaponization against him. After the Department of Justice, I should say, a lawsuit against SpaceX for allegedly preferring to hire Americans and legal citizens over refugees and asylum seekers. The company's owner, Elon Musk, chose to speak out. On Friday, Musk responded to a tweet letting the world know how he really feels about the DOJ lawsuit. Quote, "If you speak up against the liberal regime, they find ways to go after you," Planter co-founder Joe Lonsel said. "They hope to scare others not speak out like Elon Musk." The DOJ sued Planter for nonsense after our co-founder Peter Thurl spoke at the 2016 Republican convention too. Indeed, shortly after Thurl spoke at the 2016 Republican National Convention, the Department of Labor sued his company for alleged racial discrimination. On Friday, Musk responded to Lonsdale, quote, "The weaponization of government agencies need to stop. This fundamentally undermines public faith in the justice system." And I completely agree. And as reported yesterday, shortly after Musk purchased the social media platform last November, President Joe Biden ominously remarked that Musk's business transaction were worth being looked at. When asked how he would go about doing that, Biden chuckled. "There are a lot of ways." The left now considers Musk a political enemy, whether he intended to earn their ire or not. This is because he supports the First Amendment. The tech entrepreneur is right that the weaponization of government needs to stop, but appealing to the left alleged good nature will not stop the abuse. If Biden and his ilk felt any shame about their behavior, the president would not have seemingly told former President Donald J. Trump as he was booked into Fulton County Jail last night, quote, "A pros of nothing. I think today is a great day to give to my campaign," and he said this exactly at the time that Trump was being booked. What will stop the left? Well, it seems self-evident that Democrats, like all tyrants, are fundamentally a bunch of bullies. They manipulate the legal system to beat down their victims, like all all bullies. Democrats will only respond to equal or greater legal force in kind. That means that the American people, Musk, and even former president must depend on the GOP to deliver that legal pushback desperately needed to begin the restoration of confidence in the system. Thus far, such a response has been entirely lacking. The views expressed, okay, so I completely agree with this fully because of the fact that Biden just wants to target his political nuisances, as he would say. And if you think differently than him, then he does not like you whatsoever. But that's going to sum up this episode of the Dimitri Surugio Show. If you did like this episode and you do want to see more, subscribe down below because I do post new episodes of the show every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thank you all for watching, and I hope they have a great rest of your day. And if you did like this episode, please like down below so I do know that you like this kind of stuff. Thank you all for watching, and I hope they have a great rest of your day. Bye.